So what I'm going to share today is about the Gen X, Gen Y millennium theory. Does it hold clout that you can actually define the predictable behaviors of Gen X, Gen Y, millennials, boomers? Can we categorically speak or stereotype people who are born in a certain decade will behave in a certain way? Well, my angle and my take to this is no, you can't. Let's first define what makes up a person's behavior, his personality, his behavior type. There are a few things. Number one is right into the DNA, which means they were born that way. Okay, they were born as introverts or extroverts, they were born that way. So there's something that's going to be very natural. The second thing is where they are born, who are they born into, the family's values. If they come from a religious family, then it will be imparted, those values will be imparted to them. If they come from a liberal family, that will affect them too. So there's two things. Third thing is the things that are the experiences that they have will affect them. Okay? Two types of experience. The immediate experience, which means how the parents treat them, their school, the environment, where exactly were they brought up, in a rich family or a poorer family, that will affect them directly. And the fourth thing is experiences with regards to world events. And that is basically what the theories are saying, that certain kind of world events have affected our children, so we expect the millennium kids to behave in a certain way. Now, a lot of those theories that I've read or I've done research on are American-based, which means that they take for granted a lot of the events that affected America will also affect the rest of the world, which I don't see that point. Now, if you take the Americans, for example, they had a history where they enslaved people, and then they were also migrants from Europe, and they had a civil war. But in the early century, the early part of last century, they went through the First World War, the Great Depression, they went through the Second World War, their troops were also involved in the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the war in the Middle East, and so all these things affect them because some families were directly affected through the casualties of war, and some war veterans came back as casualties too, so all these things affected them. They were also affected by the assassination of John F. Kennedy, and they also put a man on the moon. So by and large, Americans are affected by these circumstances and these world events. But that doesn't necessarily mean that every Gen X, every Gen Y will be affected in that way. Let me take, for example, an extreme example that the natives in the Amazon rainforest, what exactly has affected them in the last 100 years? Nothing much have changed, except maybe the white folks were coming in and cutting down their trees. So can we stereotype that certain natives born in this certain era will behave in a certain way? Well, that's an extreme example, but it draws a point. From where I come from, Singapore, we were affected by different kinds of events. When the Americans put the man on the moon, we were struggling as an emerging new nation. We just got our independence. We were like a fishing village trying to survive. Our colonial masters just left us, and these were the things that affected us. So our older folks who were under the colonial mastership had a lot of respect for the white folks. But as time went by, the younger generation began to lose that. And what did affect us doesn't mean it's the same for all Asians. Although we're in Asia, it doesn't mean it's the same. Let me take, for example, between the Thais, which are Thailand, which is a very open country, and they welcome visitors, And the immediate neighbor, which is Myanmar, which has been a very close country until recently, they're opening up a little. You know that their Gen X, their Gen Y, and their millenniums behave in a totally different way. Okay, so at the end, my point is really this. It is not a very useful information to categorically say that we can stereotype Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, especially if you are HR or management team listening to this right now and you think that, hey, if I hire a 22-year-old, this is exactly how I expect him to behave. I don't think so. A more accurate way of gauging this will be using the traditional profiling tools. The results are much more useful, and it would definitely supersede this theory where you're just hoping and guessing that, you know, we think he needs more recognition. Even we Gen X need recognition. We want to be more, no, they want to be more involved. We want to be more involved too. It's based on personality and not based on the decade that we were born into. That's the whole point. Okay, so what's more useful is use your traditional profile tools, give them a test, and you will be able to handle them, engage them more effectively. Right? So I hope that's useful for you. If anything else, you can just go and check out my website if there are any more information that you need. Thank you.